PvP-focused gacha games are one of the most fascinating subcategories in this genre. Not only is the game balancing extremely important to get right to create a fun and diverse PvP meta, the free-to-play and low-spender experience also have to be comparable to that of whales to ensure a fair and engaging environment. Etheria Restart is the newest challenger to the market. Does it actually live up to its expectations? In this first impressions video, I will be going over my initial thoughts on the game after about a week of playtime. I understand that as a game geared towards a PvP experience, this is obviously not nearly enough time to get an informed opinion on the game overall, especially as someone that typically doesn't play PvP-focused gachas. Before I go any further though, I just wish to disclose that this is a sponsored video. However, the condition that I set in order to accept it is that I'm allowed creative freedom over the video, so I'm going to go over my overall opinions of the game, may that be the good or bad. My name is Psyche, and let's take a look at the world of Etheria Restart. There's a reason I tend to be a bit more critical of PvP gacha games is that the balancing is extremely hard to get right. Given that you want to avoid scenarios where one unit is too oppressive that it makes the game unfun for everyone, or giving Veils too big of an advantage so that it feels pointless to catch up. Very few games try to go the PvP route because of these challenges, and even fewer that actually succeed. So, is Etheria Restart up to the task? We'll start with the single-player campaign and the PvE content. Even if you're not someone that likes to compete with other players, there's still plenty of activities you can interact with. During the main story campaign, you basically go through a 3D linear level where you can conceal yourself with obstacles and pull off sneak attacks on enemies, with a tougher boss challenge at the end. With a team of typically 4 or 5 units, you will engage in turn-based combat with the enemy. The order in which each character gets their turn is displayed on the meter here, usually determined by their respective speed stat. Everyone will have a normal attack, and 1 or 2 skills with cooldowns. There is an elemental system where you will deal and take a bit more damage from another element, sort of like a game of rock, paper, scissors. There's also 2 more elements that deal more damage to each other, but will never deal reduced damage to anyone else. Of course, this is just a very brief overview of the gameplay. There are absolutely mechanics that get deeper, and I found that strategizing around some of the boss challenges to be pretty fun. Progression in Etheria Restart seems to be pretty typical, but it's streamlined quite well. Playable characters in the game are referred to as animus, and they all have a star level that can be uncapped, very similar to Ascensions. Their stats and skills can be leveled with their own currencies. The modules are essentially the relic system. Up to 6 can be slotted in total, and if you played other gachas before, you'll likely immediately understand how it works. Set bonuses and substats will power up your units even more. Nothing about the progression really sticks out to me, but I guess one argument in favor is that since you're very familiar with how to progress, it's easier for more players to know what to do and what to upgrade. One major upside is that there's no weapon gacha banner in the game, you only pull for characters. That being said, there is an equipable slot belonging to the shell, sort of like a companion that gives a passive buff and more stats. This is directly farmed within the game, so there's no need to pull for a second banner type. There are a lot of beginner progression missions to help you get started. Something I quite like is how they gave out a free SSR called Lian, where you refunded some of the upgrade materials spent on her, basically showing you how character progression works and introducing you to some of the modes. You'll farm for materials with stamina, and your performance is ranked on a clear time. There is no sweeping function, but you are allowed to auto-battle a level once you beat it once. Surprisingly, you don't even have to achieve a 3-star in order to unlock auto-battling, so that's a pretty nice touch. You can even put it in the background while you do other things such as the main story. What's more, the auto-farming will continue even if you close out of the game, so that's one step further than most gachas with similar features. Just a heads up though, since the game will run a live simulation of your team going through the stage, if your power level was just barely enough to beat it for the first time, then it's possible that your auto run ends in a loss, so just be mindful of that. I found the daily missions to take a bit more time than other conventional gachas, though I'm sure once you find what works for you, you can knock those out in 5 minutes. We'll just put on an auto battle session before closing the game. We'll talk about the gacha mechanics next. Animus rarity ranges from 3 to 5 stars. I actually found that a lot of the 4 stars and even a few 3 stars are pretty good too. And the gacha roster at launch is quite impressive. Let's go through the regular banner type first. The rate up 5-star has a 1% base chance at dropping, with a hard pity counter at 80. However, Etheria Restart features a 100% rate up chance, so every targeted unit banner type will always drop the featured 5-star whenever one is pulled. There is a selection banner where you can choose a 5-star, and they will drop within 40 pulls, so it's a good way to round out your roster with any missing units. Remember that I mentioned that there's 2 more elements that deal more damage to each other but neutral to everyone else? Well, that's where the extra infinity units come in. They consist of the constant and disorder elements. Animuses belonging to this category are considered more elusive and rare, with most of them being very powerful. They will have their own dedicated banner and pull currency. The gacha rules are exactly the same. 1% base rate for a 5-star, 80 pulls pity. But I'm typically not a fan of these hidden rarity tiers, since the normal 5-star characters don't actually feel like they're the highest rarity, and the real SSRs are locked behind a separate banner type. However, Etheria Restart does do certain things that make these characters more accessible. First, most gachas with this kind of system don't even let you use the regular gacha currency to convert pulls for this banner type. In Etheria Restart, you can actually convert it to the extra affinity pulls at 300 units per pull. Second, pulling on the permanent banner with the normal gacha tickets actually gives a small chance at dropping these units as well, at a 25% rate up chance. The fact that they can drop here is one step further than other gachas with this system. Also, one normal pull is exactly 100 tokens, instead of awkward amounts like 160 or 180, making your pulls very easy to calculate. It's just a small thing, but I appreciated that. As mentioned before, there is no weapon banner type, so you just have to save up for new characters. For those wondering, given that Etheria Restart has a PvP-centric approach, what if the dupe bonuses for pulling multiple copies of the unit are very impactful, so that whales get a massive boost? Well, from what I can see, the dupe bonuses are small stat increases, with the final one that decreases damage taken and increases damage dealt by 10%. Now, I'm no PvP expert, but I imagine that last buff is going to be somewhat substantial. To be on the completely transparent side, there's no scenario where whaling in a game won't give you an advantage. The challenge with balancing these types of games is ensuring a fair playing field, despite everyone's roster investments. Can you still have a lot of fun with PvP in Etheria Restart as a free-to-play? Yes, absolutely. If we compare to other gachas, the dupe system is way more forgiving than completely new passives or skilled locked behind them. I can say this with certainty after consulting with some players that are veterans in the PvP gacha genre. Even if you don't spend a dime on the game, it's still absolutely possible to rank high in the leaderboards. And I'll explain why right now. Etheria Restart stands out as one of the few contenders that's honing in on the PvP genre. I know PvP-focused games tend to be difficult to approach for some players, but they provide an experience that you just don't see often in the gacha market. As someone that's tried a few before, explaining why they feel so fun to play is really hard. While there is the offline arena where you can pick an attacking team to challenge other players that's controlled by AI, the main attraction of the game goes to RTA, Real-Time Arena. This is what playing Etheria Restart is all about. As the name suggests, you will engage in combat with another player in real time. Now, you might think that this really just comes down to a battle of whoever has the best gear or the most amount of dupes, but it gets a bit deeper than that. I'll start by explaining why RTA plays extremely differently than your PvE gacha games. Let's say that there's a character in the game that you just have no interest in playing, whether that may be they're just not that appealing to you or not your preferred playstyle. We'll use the 3-star Andrew here. Hypothetically speaking, if this was a PvE game, if you don't like playing Andrew, well, you can easily just ignore him. Your experiences playing the game will be unaffected. However, with RTA, things have changed. Let's say you're queuing up against another player that's using Andrew. Now, even if you don't play Andrew yourself, you're in a bit of a bind, because you don't know what he does, and more importantly, how to counter it. PvP gacha games are unique in a sense that even if you have no interest in playing a certain character, it's greatly to your benefit if you know how they work. This leads us to the drafting phase. This unironically might be even more exciting than the actual battle itself. How it works is that both players will take turns forming their team, then ban a unit from the opposing side. Your knowledge of the game has huge ramifications here, since if you know how different units counter each other, you stand a better chance at drafting a team that beats your opponent. It's worth mentioning that it's never to the game's advantage to release a stupidly broken unit that dominates everyone else. There is always a counter to every unit in the game. This becomes one of the biggest skill-based equalizers for players, because no amount of whaling is going to teach you the knowledge you need in the drafting phase. There's a reason why games like Etheria Restart are standouts and why they work. And there are many things I haven't been able to explore, such as different team archetypes or the Fearless Arena mode where it's a mini tournament with 8 participants. One loss and you're out. You don't need to be an expert to play the PvP modes, but the game will heavily encourage you to participate, as you get a lot of sweet rewards each season, even if you play casually. In the end, Etheria Restart doesn't blow me away in terms of innovation or quality, but I think there's something charming about its simplistic nature and commitment to making a solid PvP experience. As a new game on the market, you have the unique opportunity to be on even playing fields with other players, considering that everyone will have to adapt to the game's systems in the same rate as you. And you don't need to play catch-up with understanding years of content with an older game. I think it's a game that's worth at least checking out, even if you're someone that's on the fence about PvP being its prominent mode. There's plenty of ways to test your limits, and a streamlined progression and guaranteed rate-up gacha will certainly help you get started. If Etheria Restart has piqued your interest, be sure to use the link in the description to download the game today. Hopefully, this video provided some insight into Etheria Restart. And thank you again to Etheria Restart for sponsoring the video. If you want to catch more gacha-related content like this, you know what to do. Thank you for watching, and have fun out there.